Hi, Amy. Can you hear us?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Great.
Dog's ruining my little shit.
Give us 30 seconds and we can get going.
Great.
I'd like to call the Economic Development Committee meeting to order. Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Oh, I can't, sorry.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Louder.
Move on to number 3. Approve the meeting minutes from February 23rd and March 30th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on, number 4. I don't know who's doing the update on the,
Amy McGowan is our guest from Habitat for Humanity to give us an update on Rock the Block.
Hi there. Thank you for inviting me to share with you today. I think I would like to share a video here. I think I have that ability.
You should have the ability, so go ahead and try.
Okay.
And then make sure when you share, there's a checkbox to share the sound too. Otherwise, we won't hear the sound if there's sound.
Okay. All right. All right, I hope you're all seeing a screen with just the Habitat logo on it.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm just going to go through a little bit about what Rock the Block is and what we'll be doing in New London coming up, a little bit of status of where we're at with that whole project right now, and then open it up for questions. So Habitat for Humanity, and because you're not super aware, we've got a variety of programs that all really look to address affordable housing or the lack of affordable housing and work with partner families, community partners to find solutions that make affordable housing more accessible. And just a bit of the programs, but what we're going to be talking about today is Rock the Block. And Rock the Block brings residents, municipalities, community partners together to improve and beautify homes and the surrounding neighborhoods. We've been doing Rock the Block since 2015, and New London will be the 16th neighborhood, I believe. So there's been a lot in the Fox cities. And then the last few years, we've done some of the rural communities. So New London will be one of the outside of the central Fox cities area. And it's been really an amazing partnership with a lot of those communities because people know each other and they meet each other and they're coming out and really just bringing that community together. So throughout the Fox cities, throughout the country, really, there's a need for affordable housing. And we're seeing some of the financial strain that is causing people to not be able to afford their homes. And we're looking at home ownership, but we're also looking at just safe and decent homes. So that includes lead work and roofing repairs and things that just allow people to stay inside of their homes. So we identify the neighborhoods that have some of the greater needs or different demographics that we're looking at as far as the income of the homeowners, the age of the home of the people that live there, percent of home ownership versus rentals. All of those kinds of things are looked at, and then we start meeting with community partners to really build those teams that are going to make this happen. We raise funds to make it happen, and then we start inviting homeowners to apply once we're all kind of aligned on this is where we're going, this is the plan, these are the champions involved. And so that's the stage we're in right now in New London, is that inviting homeowners to apply. Later on, we'll be recruiting volunteers, and then the event date, which is scheduled for September, will be Rocking the Neighborhood. One thing that we like to make sure is that we understand that Rock the Block is this initial spark that really helps with full-term neighborhood revitalization. Once we're in a neighborhood, we're really staying there for a long term. We're going back in years following, doing more extensive home repairs, or looking for home ownership opportunities. We go to those same neighborhoods and invite people to apply to be homeowners in those same neighborhoods and take it, work with some of the other Habitat programs. So the Rock the Block is exterior focused, siding, doors and windows, roof replacements, lead paint abatement has been a big one lately for us. Some landscaping, porches and entries, concrete repair, and then just community beautification in every neighborhood. We do community projects as well. So there's usually 20 to 30 projects that happen as part of that initial Rock the Block. And then, like I said, in the years following, there's additional, more extensive home repairs where we'll go inside and maybe look at plumbing and electrical and all of those other things, as well as usually two new homes in the neighborhood. And to that end, we look for blighted properties for potential rehab to take the whole home from start to finish and make that available for a home ownership opportunity for a home buyer family. Some before and after pictures. This was in New London in 2019. As you can see, there was a lot of work to be done on this red home. It was roofing, siding, windows, porch repair, landscaping. It was kind of everything. And there's a big difference between what it started with and just a week later. This one was a little bit longer than 3 days because there's so much extensive work, but big difference. Another before and after of another neighborhood a few years prior to that. This happened to me the other day. It stops right here. So we've been in, like I said, several neighborhoods so far. Some of these orange areas are all of the areas we've been in. And then outside of the Fox City, we've been in Wapaka and Brilliant and now New London. 14 neighborhoods. We were doing one neighborhood in Neenah in just 2 weeks, the beginning of May. And then, like I said, New London will be the 16th neighborhood. So far, 474 projects completed, 277 homes repaired, 10 blighted restorations, and 19 new homes were built in those neighborhoods since the events took place. One of the things we're finding is that specifically Menasha has been really helpful, their police department, in measuring results from before and after events. And the first time we did an event there, they called about a year after. They called our Rock the Block manager and just shared all of these great statistics that they've found and that they really tied back to Rock the Block because they were looking in that specific neighborhood. So they're finding reduction in police calls on burglaries, theft, ordinance violations, disturbances, robbery, aggravated assault. The one thing they saw an increase in was calls for neighborhood watch. So they thought that was a really, really beneficial thing, showing that neighbors are out watching out for each other and noticing what is supposed to be in their neighborhood. They've met their neighbors during Rock the Block, and now they're really kind of taking ownership of their neighborhood. We do surveys after Rock the Block, and 87% of the residents believe their neighborhood was beautified. 76% have seen increased pride or feel increased pride about being in that neighborhood and inviting their friends over to their houses, and the children being able to invite friends over and things like that. And then 55% believe that their properties have increased in value. So there's, some of those statistics we're able to really kind of quantify, and then all of the other, just the quality and the standard of living for the families, stability, both economic and social stability when people are able to afford their homes and afford the repairs that are needed, and pride and productivity. So far, 27,000 volunteer hours have been part of Rock the Block, and almost 20,000 residents have been impacted. And we kind of look at that as a whole neighborhood. When we're in a neighborhood, it's not just the homes that we're actually repairing that are being impacted. So many times we see other neighbors also improving their homes just because their neighborhood starts to look nicer, and they just think like this is something I can do. In New London specifically, we believe there will be that same number, 25 plus projects. I just got an update today from our Rock the Block coordinator, and there are 20 residential applications so far, and she said that's about normal, and believes that it's going to put us right in that 25 or so projects with some community projects. We'll have confirmed numbers in June. They did just delay the date for applications to May 10th, just to try to help some of the people who were like halfway through the application or something like that. So they're just delayed that a little bit to make that easier. And then they also extended there's a target area. I'll show that here. So the old 5th Ward was really the area that a lot of the focused area was. And the outreach coordinator was in the neighborhood. First mailers went out to those neighbors, letting them know about the program and inviting them to apply. And then she was there in the street, knocking on doors and inviting everybody, letting them know what's happening, and really kind of just inviting them to apply for Rock the Block. Over the next month or so, our construction team will be in that same neighborhood, or in all of the people that have applied for the program, doing assessments and scopes of work. And so that's when we start getting those confirmed numbers with how many projects this will actually end up being. But we think it's right in the normal range of about 25 or so. Volunteer hours, we're unsure. There's a lot of desire that we've heard so far from a lot of the companies in New London that want to volunteer. So we believe it's going to be a great event. So we're just kind of watching COVID too, and making sure that it all works in conjunction. And if I can get this to work, I have a video. I'm having problems with this one. This is our Rock the Block last year. Are you still seeing the video?
Yes.
Good. Okay. This is the Rock the Block in Wapaka last year. So I can just share this with you, and then I'll open it up for questions.
House is over 150 years old. It needed a roof and it needed some siding, and this program allowed that to happen.
Hearing about the different work that has taken place throughout Wapaka, just reading about it, it's been really inspiring and very touching at the same time.
Habitat is an organization that truly makes a difference in our communities and actually in the world.
They replaced the patio that was falling down on the east side.
Just trying to make a difference, in our community and where we live.
The outside of the house is all finished now.
Give yourselves a big round of applause. This is a great program.
So that's what I wanted to share with you. Some of the, as you can tell, that was in Wapaka last year, so everybody was wearing masks. So it was definitely more of a challenge. We had to delay it, and then we had to keep group sizes small. So we're hoping some of that will be a little bit resolved this year, as we're, getting further and more vaccinations and things like that. That's something we keep monitoring to see what we're going to do on work sites. But we are having people come out together and volunteer together. And so it was a great experience even last year. And so we're looking for that same type of spirit and cooperation in New London. It's been great so far with all the champions working on this. Any questions for me about Rock the Block or specifically in New London?
Amy, I have a question about the homeowner applications that have been coming in. I know the Fifth Ward was being targeted, and I know that even though homeowners that were not in that area could still apply, do you know if any applications came from outside of that area that were accepted, or did they mostly come from that Fifth Ward area?
I don't know that specifically. I believe that some did come outside of that area, because I know I just spoke to Sarah and she was talking about where they're doing the scope. So I think they have extended that area. I can get that information if it's helpful.
I'll just add too on the city's end. The planning commission had a similar presentation by Sarah, one of the other people from Habitat, and the planning commission did approve to waive all building permit fees for all the homes that are going to be involved in this project. So that's one of the ways that the city's being a partner and contribution to the project. Also, Sarah is going to be meeting with Luke Hammonds, our street park superintendent, and be coming up with a game plan for what type of projects we can do community-wide. So that's the volunteer work, whether it's in the parks or different homes. So I know Luke and Sarah are going to meet up in the near future to kind of work on that and get that kind of organized. So those are already ways that the city is being a partner in the project.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Sarah mentioned, I think they're meeting there on May 12th, and she mentioned too that I think there's going to be construction with her when they meet. So in addition to working with Luke on identifying community projects, our construction team is kind of just on the lookout too for areas that we could possibly, see some improvements and help with that.
I did want to add as well, the downtown revitalization subcommittee has kind of wrapped their arms around this project, and we meet once a month. We want to see this project obviously come to fruition. So we have committed to help fundraising for it. And part of that fundraising will include any in-kind services. So what we're doing right now is we're collecting any contractor information for organizations or businesses that might be interested in supporting the project. So if there's someone, right now I think I have a handle on everybody in New London, but if there's someone outside of New London that you think may be interested in the project, please let me know so I can get them added.
Anything else from comments, questions?
There like resources for the residents to help them know how to maintain these projects after they're done, kind of like upkeep?
So yes, there, I don't know that there's any specific dates, but we do offer some different types of maintenance classes and things like that. And I'll find out exactly how people are invited to those. We used to do more of the in-person community classes, but we haven't this past year because of COVID. So I don't know what the plans are for the next several months, but I know that's been in discussion as well.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on to number 5, discussion about the Grand Cinema Theaters.
Yeah, so Amy, you're welcome to stay on, or you can ride off in the sunset if you like at this point.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Great, thank you.
Bye-bye.
So on our agenda, we talked about at the last meeting, I think Hans brought up the question about the Grand Cinema Theater. And we were going to put it on this month's agenda. I know April talked to Margie Brown, and Margie was going to kind of give us a little history of how the city was involved in Grand Cinema Theater at the time. And so, yeah, come on down to a microphone and give us a little history lesson.
I'm having a hard time hearing you because I have hearing loss and I'm behind you, so
Yep.
you'll have to speak up. In about 1997, there were a bunch of us that noticed when you went to the Grand, you probably couldn't find a seat because they were all broken. It was leaking inside. It smelled like mold. There were mushrooms growing around. It was bad. And so Bonnie Whitert was the other person, and I approached the city, and we were very lucky that they were interested in saving the building. They found out that the person who owned it at the time had not put any work into keeping it up. So the east wall had separated and then the trusses failed. And that got the city involved. It was a repair or raise order, which put the Friends of the Grand into motion because we didn't want to lose the building. What we were told by the city was if you want to do anything, you're going to have to force a referendum because we had no money, the city had no money. So we went door to door and we had to get, I forget how many signatures. I don't know what that is anymore. But I have to share that what we heard for the older people here would remember this. Many, many people opened their door and said, and you'll pardon my expression, but this is what I heard. You damn right I'll sign that petition. They're not going to do another Elwood Hotel.
There we go.
Yeah. People were upset because things were coming down without them being involved in the decisions. So we got a lot more signatures than we really needed and brought those back to the city. And they organized a referendum for us. Meanwhile, we didn't know this, but a man named Paul Rogers, owns a lot of theaters, and he was interested in the Grand. He wanted it. Now, we had no understanding of this, but he was in the works with the guy who owned it at the time. And later he told me, I was just backing you up because I had no idea that you guys would actually pass this referendum. They thought it would fail. Well, it didn't. We got the referendum, people wanted it saved. The city said, we'll allow you $250,000, which the city people agreed to pay a little at a time over 10 years on their taxes. So that's how we got the money. The day after the referendum passed, Paul Rogers announced that he owned the theater. And I went, what? And he had paid for it from the owner. And so that just created a partnership between Rogers Cinema and the Friends of the Grand. And they decided they would work on the mechanics of the theater. They put in a brand new projector and sound system and all of that. We did the grunt work on all saving the building and doing something with that, cleaning it up. What a disaster. I decided that when people came in, they should do a log, sign in, sign out, just so that we had a record of how many people and who it was that actually volunteered to do this. So it was October 1998, we opened the doors and people just came in and said, how can I help? And I had a chart and I said, this needs work, this. Everybody picked a spot and they went to it and they worked all day. At the end of this project, my volunteer log came up to about 5,000 hours. And I know that's not all of them because some people didn't sign in and out. So we did the best we could, but that was interesting. With all of those people helping, we also had a guy that restores. He's a professional restoration guy. And he came in and helped us, giving us information and know-how. And he was right there with us, pounding the concrete out of the girls' bathroom because it was bad. It was something added later and it was doing this. And he was taking seats apart and doing everything. We also had help from the high school. They volunteered somehow to let John Daly, who was the tech ed teacher, bring his senior boys over every day. And they took out all of the seats and the bolts that went in the floor. They went behind the scenes. They took out the old furnace. They did all of that kind of thing for us. So we were doing other things. It took a while, to get everything done. And a lot of people came just to do, I'll paint, I'll decorate, I'll do it. Great, we'll take you. So I would take the bills, bring them into City Hall, and they were all tabulated. So we had nothing to do with the money. It was just, I got a list. You got this much left. You got this much left. So we would dole it out to whatever needed to be done. So it was a long process, but we worked with a man named Ted, and he was general manager for Paul Rogers Cinema. And as I told her when we were looking at the grant, I said, when I met this man, he's very tall and I'm pretty short. So already I felt intimidated. And he said he would be the one to represent Paul Rogers on this building. And the first thing he said to me was, I hate women.
Oh, gee.
Starting off great.
Yeah, he did. That was his exact words. I said, oh, this is going to be fun. So he fought me a lot. And I kept trying to tell him, we're on the same side here. We want to get this done. But he wanted it to be his own thing. Usually Paul would just give him carte blanche and he could do whatever he wanted. And he wanted to turn the Grand into something like a 1920s, like he did at the theater in Wapaka with all of the lights and all that stuff. And I said, no, on our referendum, what we did was promise the people of New London that we would restore the Grand to the best of our ability, not make it into whatever you're thinking. So that was our big contention. And he was mad at me when I took the big overhang off the front of the building that used to be there. He was mad at me because I put windows back in the front. So we had kind of a bad situation there, but I won. He liked to lock us out when we were coming to work. So it was a grand time, but we made it anyway. I did, for those of you who know nothing about the Grand, I did this little thing years ago, and it just gives you a real quick rundown of the history of the Grand. And on the back, there's a picture of the original Grand, a picture of one of the renovations in 1936, and our renovation. So some people said, I don't know, I only have 5 of these, so if you want. We put this up too, I brought this along. This was to help people vote yes on the referendum. And that was our slogan. And somebody brought in a saying that came along with us. It was something like, never underestimate the power of a small group to get things finished, because they're the only ones who can. And so we use that because there were just a small group of us to start. So that was what we did. I don't know what your intentions are. I wasn't filled in on that. So if you tell me, I probably can have some more things for you. I made this book also, and I put it in the theater. It's a little history of the Grand, and then I have pictures of us working on the Grand, which might be kind of fun for you to see what a mess it was. Does anybody remember that Grand like that?
Yep.
Where I remember going to the Grand to watch, what's it called? In the Titanic. And as I'm sitting in the one seat that I could find, it was raining. And the water was running right down the walls. I'm on the Titanic. It was bad. So this is here for anybody that'd like to take a look at it. So what is it you really need from me? Are you looking to save the old girl now that it's going downhill again?
So I don't think there's any thought process where the committee or the city is going to go with this yet. At the last meeting, we had a committee member at the last meeting just talk about, wanting an update of the Grand and if it's being sold and stuff like that. And I think it was just put on the agenda to kind of talk about it. And then, is there anything the city can do, to help with the sale of it, to continue it, I think. But then it's open to the committee to see where we want to go with this at all. It is a private property, it's not, owned by the city by any means. I know Han Thompson at the last meeting mentioned that Oshkosh must be owned by the city and then they lease it out to a private vendor. So.
Oh, I know it's worth saving. It's 126 years old now. The architect is the same person that built the Grand in Oshkosh, William Waters, and he's very, very well known. You can find his signature pieces on the Grand. There's a cross arrows and a sunburst. He put them on every building he ever made. So we know that that's a big deal to have him have built that. It just hasn't been taken care of. It's a beautiful building. We were working on the balcony one day when we had to have the building inspected for safety, and the man spent quite a time. He went from the basement all the way up, came over to me, and he says, "Well, if there was a tornado going down this street, I'd be in this building." So I said, "Okay." Sounds good to me. But it's a beautiful building. Right now it needs TLC. It needs, April was able to bust us in. And I looked it over really good, and the building itself, the Grand itself, is dirty. They haven't cleaned it. It looks like everything was just left as they decided to close the place. It kind of looked like, well, we'll be back in a while, so we'll just leave this. So you can imagine what it looks after sitting there for a year. So, we did red seats in the building so that when you open the door, it just popped at you. Well, Teddy Boy took those out of there and put some gray, so they're old, they're out of another theater. Some of those are broken. Some of the seats in the balcony are broken. It just needs a lot of cleaning up and some repainting and stuff too. But I understand that the owner now has come down. He wanted 425,000.
He said he'll take 300.
Yeah.
I think the owner's in poor health. He owns another theater, and I think he just wants it. Yeah, wants it off his hands. I think we wanted to bring Mrs. Brown here. You'll always be Mrs. Brown.
I know, that's what I said.
Always do Mrs. Brown. We wanted to bring Mrs. Brown in just to share with the committee, the amount of heart and energy and love that went into the theater, and just so that we're aware of it and that we spread the word to maybe someone who may be interested in purchasing it in the future, so that we don't lose it.
I have to be honest, it breaks my heart to see that, because all the work that we did, and I'm a movie buff anyway, and I went there my entire life, and to see what's happening for the second time rips me up. It really does, because it's just so much work and love that went into it to save it, and now nobody cares. It's bad. Roger said,
Ms. Brown, this is Mayor Mark. I appreciate you coming in today, because you have brought a ton of knowledge with you, and you open up the door to this committee to have a lot of options to look at saving it. I mean, from helping to sell it to maybe motivation that the city can help further the benefits of this building, and we don't lose it. I think it's an important part that you brought up too, of the meaning that it has to the city of New London. It's a huge factor of where New London has started. The museum has history about this building, but I just wanted to take that second to thank you for coming in, because just listening to you and the knowledge and what you've been through from the start to finish of this has educated all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I wanted to add that I think it was 2007, Paul Rogers said to me, I told you if we ever came to the point where we wanted to leave New London, that the first offer would be to the city because I want you to keep your movie theater. We are too close to Appleton. If we lose that theater, we're not going to get another one. So he came to a meeting with me here and explained that everything in the theater would be there. I mean, he wasn't taking anything out. It's all yours for free. It's yours. It's the city. City turned it down.
When was that?
When was this?
07,
City turned it down.
turned it down.
Like he was just gonna give it to the city?
I type.
If I could put in my 2 cents worth here, I remember the old Hotel Fondley. And classic historic building. Tore that down for a ugly bank. The only other historic building left in town is the old City Hall. Mark my word, in a few years they'll implode that. The only other one here is the Grand. And in my humble opinion, I think we should do whatever we can, public, private, private, public, to save that building and preserve at least some history of New London. Whatever it takes.
We were, after the city turned it down, and by the way, I was totally embarrassed that our city would do that. Then he decided that he would try to offer it to, I have a community theater, the Wolf River Theatrical Troupe. He said, I would give this to you. But I had to be honest. I said, we're a small group. We can't afford the Grand. We can't afford the taxes. We can't afford to keep it up. I said, I'd love to have it, but we can't do it. So then he went out, he said, then I have to sell it. So he went out and found this Bobo. Did I say that?
What was that?
I call him like I see him.
Bobo where?
So anyway, there it sits, and the problem is there aren't too many people knocking the door down to want to come and operate a theater here.
What if we cleaned it up somehow? Would that make it more appealing to buyers?
It's just the running of the theater. There aren't very many people that know how.
The day-to-day running of it, yeah. You can't even make a buck.
The cleaning it up would certainly be in favor.
Because I think they just didn't clean.
Yeah, and there's some major roof
Is there
repair that
more
needs to
roof
take
repair?
place.
We had to take the booth down, the projection booth down, because when it was built, it was off center. So Paul said, that's why things are fuzzy around the edge. I don't know. So he took it down. And when he did that, we actually got to see what the walls looked like when it was built. So we took the colors from that. And it was a cream color with ruby red and kind of a, I don't know, greenish that were in it. So we took those colors and did the theater. And it was beautiful when we opened it. Well, then when the last people owned it, the gal who was managing it, who was a very nice young gal, I have nothing against her, but one day she decided it needed some color, I guess. So she painted over a lot of the cream color in the most garish red I've ever seen in my life. And I came in and I actually cried. Oh my God, we worked so hard and look at this. And so I had to say something to her, and she says, well, I'm sorry you don't like it. I thought you'd like it. And I said, I'm sorry, it looks like the inside of a circus tent. And it was so pretty. So I would paint that over if we were going to do it. But there's just a lot of other things. There's an office area, storage area above, well, what used to be the dime store, that's the other part of the Grand Theater. And man, that is trashed.
Chad, do you think that there would be any benefit to getting the current owner on a call with you and I to see, where his head's at, where with listing and what the future looks like for him? And
I think more information, the better.
Okay.
At this point, yeah.
maybe he's in the Who to gift?
I would also recommend that if you have the opportunity, you should reach out to Oshkosh to get more information about how they operate their public-private partnership. I agree with Fred that it would be a real shame to lose this building. That theater opened, I think, it was like right before Christmas. It was like December 18th or something of 1998. And that was the first job I ever had in high school. I was 15 and a half years old, and it was just magical. It was the best job I've ever had. And I would
be there.
I would really hate for this community to lose this building. It seems to me that there's an opportunity to repurpose it in a way that maybe we don't have a need for a gigantic movie theater. Maybe the smaller theaters could continue to be used as movie theaters, and the larger space could be used for other events. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. And I think that, I just saw an article in the paper that we are spending something like $237,000 on roof repairs for the municipal building, which if it's money that needs to be spent, it's money that needs to be spent. But if we can get the grant, a piece of the city's history for $300,000 and find a way to operate it profitably with a private company, I think we should do it.
Another option might be, I'm just tossing ideas in the air. Maybe a private public ownership or sell stock, like the Packer stock. You can't make any money on it, but rather than calling it a donation, you can say you're a stockholder. Another idea.
I just want, when Hans reminded me of when we started the project with Paul Rogers, our vision was to use it as different things, not only show movies, but have meetings there and all kinds of things, guest artists or whoever wanted to use the building. But we didn't have the money. We couldn't do it. You could do that, or you could save the movie theater. So we saved the movie theater. So that was always a thought. But Teddy Boy that I worked with did some things that made using it for some things impossible, because in the back of the theater, the heating unit used to come up like this and then through the attic. He cut that all down, and he brought in some nice corrugated stuff that was about this big around, and he bent it over the stage, so they cut down all of the lines for the walkways and the fly system and all that. He cut it all down. And so it would all have to be rebuilt and redone if you wanted to use the stage for anything else, because that's right in the middle of it. So I don't think it would be really expensive, but it would be necessary to do things. So I'd like to see it used for various things. It'd be a beautiful place to have a wedding or anything like that.
I feel like it's worth seeing who would be interested in trying to make the building better, because I feel like there is a lot of interest in the building, and I know a ton of people who are sad that we don't have a theater running right now, and especially just with people just eager to go back to doing things. I feel like there would be a really strong group of people who would want to work on it and want to put forth the effort, just because it would be that connection feeling that all of us want to feel right now. They want to feel connected and a part of our community in any way that we can, and get out and do stuff. And I feel like that is just a great opportunity to see if people are willing to work for it. And then that would also maybe bring interest to a buyer who would see oh, hey, New London wants this. And if there's this many people willing to work towards it, then maybe it's worth it to purchase the building. So I think that it would work in a lot of ways to see just general interest.
Is there a way to reach out to like the New London Historical Society? I know they have that Thurn Farm off of 54. I don't know. I know that was gifted to them, but I'm sure they pay for maintenance and upkeep of that place. So maybe
That'd be worth a shot.
reach out to them, see if they could offer any advice how they operate the Thurn Farm.
I think Thurn Farm was gifted to them along with a gift of money to continue to maintain it as well.
I know it was brought up to them quite a while ago and they said no, but things change.
Well, something needs to be done fairly soon.
What?
It needs to be done fairly soon.
Well, there's a window here. I mean, we've got somebody that wants to sell it, right? And now they've come down in price by, sounds like $127,000. They're a motivated seller. Here's an opportunity. And if it falls into private hands again, you could end up going down the road of the old City Hall building.
I think that just meeting today is having it on the agenda today is a good starting point, and thanks for bringing it up last month, Hans. But I think we'll need some more information gathering. We'll need to bring in our finance director. We'll need to call Oshkosh folks who own the sister brother theater to this. There's a lot of things to go from here and a lot of things to sleep on, but not for a long time, because it's in the market, and it's also in a death rattle, it sounds. So something to think about.
How about if we put this on next month's agenda again, and we have some data that from your conversations, because at least then we've got some exposure and some information. And we'll bring it on the next one, find out what you guys shared, find out if there's any interest, have an update from Oshkosh, maybe have a speaker from Oshkosh.
I would be willing to contact them.
Yeah, that's
See if I can find somebody who knows something.
In that time, I'll reach out to.
Well, I think time is of the essence too on this thing, so start moving.
I would also really love to think that there's 8,000 people from New London watching this meeting right now, and everybody would come knocking on our door tomorrow and say, we heard that, we saw that, we'd like to pitch in. But, maybe at some point, we need to put the word out to individual residents who probably have similar sentiments and get a public opinion, a public pulse on this. Because I think that a lot of people drive by it every day and, well, it looks pretty and I used to go there. Remember the 99-cent movies and in your case, 25-cent movies. But
20 cents, a nickel left for candy on Sunday.
But yeah, so maybe just getting the word out publicly to gauge people's thoughts on this, because or we'll be in the same boat as what folks felt when the Elwood came down. So,
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
would you be willing to come back to our meeting next month and mentor us on this project?
Yes.
I appreciate that.
We'll see what I can find out. All right.
Right, so Margie's gonna contact Oshkosh and see what you can get, and then we'll contact the current owner and see what information we can get with
He
that.
wants to sell it for $1.98.
Sounds
Very
good. Margie says you're gonna sell this for $1.
Thank you for
guess-
having me.
Nice meeting you, Margie.
Nothing to complain.
One other thing for the committee too is if you guys are out talking to people, start drumming up interest on this as in your wards and in your areas to kind of, because I guess in one of the ways to really make this truly successful, if it does turn into a project that city's got to work on, is it a grassroots group like they had back in the day to really get together to do something about it? Because you guys put a ton of work into that at the time, and it's probably going to be the same thing. So how many volunteers would have to be coming
We are
together for something like
We're
this.
still active, the Friends of the Grand, we still have a 501c3.
Oh, there you go.
That will help.
Interesting.
Chad, I would also like to mention that I worked with Christine Cross and Casey Zempel to put something together throughout the museum and video of the history of the Grand and maybe interview some people and so on. It was kind of a wheels in motion kind of thing, but we do have that going for us too.
So that's already in place, is he saying, or is that an idea?
Idea that they're going to start working on. They haven't started
Kinda
yet.
like
but-
create that.
Yeah. I met with them and talked with them, and it's kind of more or less of getting the public interest involved in what's going on with the Grand, as well as helping the future of the Grand was my intent. So I met with them guys and they have the ideas and we'll see what they come up with.
We've chatted.
If I could end up with one of those sheets that she handed out and I can scan it and send it to you all. So I just need one. So just at the end of the meeting.
Put it with my attendance.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in and
Thank you very
give us
much.
a history on that.
Pleasure.
All right, moving on to number 6. Consider Wapaka County Marketing Co-op contribution.
So we put this on the agenda to kind of have a discussion on the Wapaka County Economic Development has a marketing co-op function that they have. And if you guys remember the veteran individuals, we had Dave Thiel and then Bill Zeiner come in and I put it in your packet, the last presentation they gave on the marketing co-op. And that's where they started talking about getting into the Claritas information and using those funds in the co-op to get more information about how to recruit individuals and keep people in our area. From my understanding in April, correct me if I'm wrong, in the past, the marketing co-op was a little bit more focused towards tourism, and they're switching it now. This co-op is switching it now to try to do more of the resident recruitment, work recruitment, student recruitment for Wapaka County. That does not line up anymore with funding from the Tourism Commission. I mean, it's not a tourism function anymore. So to stay in the co-op, for New London to stay part of this co-op, it doesn't pay for the money to come out of the tourism because the Tourism Commission is not getting a benefit out of it anymore. So moving forward in the co-op, that contribution, which is about $3,000 a year, would more than likely have to come from the city to stay part of this function. So I just want to kind of have that little conversation with you guys. It's something we can probably absorb in our operation budget. The operation budget for the Economic Development Committee is about 30-some thousand, a little over $30-some thousand a year, give or take, depending on what projects we got going on. So just want to kind of throw it out there, see what you guys thought about it. There's a transition going on because Dave Thiel, the executive director, is retiring, I think in August. So a new person's coming on board, a new focus might come on board with that as well. But I think it's still good to be part of the co-op at this point in time and just see where the marketing aspects are going to go with them. So just want to kind of throw it out there to see what you guys thought about that.
Do we know where we're falling coming up on May for our 30-something thousand budget? Are we way ahead? Or are we way behind? Because it seems in some of these meetings we've got, if we've got some money, we might want to put a little bit towards the topic we just talked about, towards with the Grand Cinema, and just kind of see where we are now.
Yep. So I have the economic development operating budget. We have a little bit different, in a kind of a capital budget, but the operating budget is about 39,000. We spent, well, there was let's see, we're part of the Fox Cities Fox Cities
Partnership.
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 That's a $7,000 contribution right there. We've had to spend some funding in sales of land that goes part of that property that we sold up in the Northeast Industrial Park. There's closing costs and things with all that. So far this year in the budget, we've spent a little over $9,000 out of a $39,000 budget. So we're doing pretty decent so far this year. We've got money in here for consultants. If you remember, we are not spending the $850 per month for Bill Zeinert anymore. And I don't anticipate us needing to spend that much for our social media marketing. So that's the savings there, that we're saving on that aspect of it.
Is there any costs that we'll have with the university?
Yes.
Development that we
Yes.
should.
And we have a line item in here for land, building, sales, and expenses. So there will be expenses for that moving forward. But I think at this point, I mean, just to stay part of that co-op, part of that marketing aspect of it, you know,
Feel
for
like
this
there's
year.
enough to put it in there.
Yep, for this year, you know, and like I said, we'll see what the new economic or the new executive director, their focus on in the future. But we can use, hopefully we can start using some of this Claritas information on Casey's marketing information, you know, what type of people do we want to attract to New London? What type of people are already here? And actually use that marketing information.
So are we looking to vote to, like, when is this term? When do we vote to renew it, or is it?
Last year, the bill landed on my desk in June.
Yep.
And like he had mentioned, we're not sure if this is something that Dave is even going to go after with his retirement coming up. I'm not sure if they're going to continue the marketing co-op. So it's something that we need to have on our radar just in case.
Yep. So we haven't seen a bill yet. So maybe we don't want to, you know, approve something that hasn't come to us yet, but we'll kind of see what's going to happen with the co-op. And, you know, I just want to kind of put that word out there that this is something that is probably important. We'll keep it on our radar.
Will we know any more in a month from now, or not really? Not for 2 months from now?
We should know by June.
Oh, well, should we table it till June then?
Hi, Mayor.
On June agenda?
Or May, if we know something by next month, you know, it's only April.
Yeah, I don't think they'll discontinue the program because of a retirement. There are a lot of businesses that are involved in this cooperative. And without the townships, municipalities being involved, then nobody would be involved, and it would, but it certainly has its values. So maybe to keep it in the radar as far as budget wise, whether a new person comes in after Dave retires, and it might take them till July or something, but I feel it's, at this point, it would look bad to pull out of it for us right now, yeah, so.
And maybe that'd be a
Keep it
good
on.
opportunity next month to invite Dave or Bill to kind of give us a preview of what they're looking at for the next round of things. I think that'd be a really good thing.
Mhm.
Have them present.
That's a good idea.
Update?
Yep.
What is the $3,000 for? Is it just administrative costs?
They put it together. I mean, there's different municipalities are in this co-op, and they use the money as a co-op to kind of do some bigger projects. So what they did last year, and in your packet, you'll see that marketing investment information. What they were looking at is trying to get marketing information to understand what types of groups of people live in New London and what types of people we could attract to New London. You know, according to this marketing information, spending that marketing data or marketing dollars to get the best bang for your buck, that would try to attract the most optimal people that would come to New London, if that makes sense. So,
Weren't we campers and camels or something like that?
yeah.
It was really good data.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
Very good
interesting.
detail.
they knew like what type of TV those
Restaurants.
people, where they ate,
Cars
what
I
kind of
drive.
shoes they bought. I mean, it was really.
And Tim, if you're interested in, and Billy, we have that video recorded on YouTube. And if you guys are interested, let me know, and I'll find which meeting that was. And then you go back and watch that meeting to kind of get some more information on what they presented at the time.
So that way, if we were to try to recruit a business, we would know what our residents are purchasing and what to go after.
You can look up Claritas on Google as well, and it shows you, and I think it was number 51, campers and camels.
That's very good information.
But I'll see about seeing if they're ready to kind of come back to the next meeting and see what the next round of marketing focus is going to be for recruitment, residential and workforce recruitment in Wapaka County.
All right, moving on to updates and reports. April,
That's me.
it's you.
All right, the first update that I have for you, and Johnny and Chad, I'll have a copy of this for you, is a business expansion. 50 Shades of Confidence, a boudoir and beauty photography business. Did you guys know that this was downtown? You ever heard of this business?
What is it?
50 Shades of Confidence, a boudoir and beauty photography. She's in the old City Hall, and QPS used to be there, and QPS has since moved on, and now she's expanded into that entire building. So I went on and I looked at her Facebook group. I don't know when she went into that building, but she created that Facebook page in 2018. She has 5,000 followers. That's like as many as the city and the chamber combined.
Wow.
So there is definite interest in this business. So that is Maria Munez Vera who owns that. So she's going to be expanding. I told her as soon as she is all set, I'd love to come and see her new studio. The next is, and if Chad, if you can pull up my there. We have one vacancy on North Water Street, which is 219 West North Water Street. Owner Jose Huerta has done some renovations in 2019. It is available. He's given me a virtual tour link, and I want to show the committee all the work that he's done. So this is the building that is right next to Lynn Tank, and I believe Summer Studios at one point. Does anybody remember? Does that sound right? Yeah, 'cause that's right across the street. If you want to go into the front window so you can kind of see like what's across from it to kind of give everybody their bearings.
Jolly Rogers is
Yep.
across the
So if you
street.
look across the street, there's Jolly Rogers. So if you look inside of this beautiful building, all hardwood floors, beautiful arch entryways, really nice remodel that's taking
I
place.
sanded those floors. They were asbestos tile. I sanded the asbestos off.
Yeah, he did a really great job. It's a beautiful building. It's got it listed right now for $800 a month plus utilities. And this
big
looks,
space in the
I
back.
think you could have two businesses in here, like with the amount of space, office space that you have in here. There's a couple people that are interested in it right now, so hopefully it's not on the market long. But I just thought it was a pretty cool tour, virtual tour, and I wanted to show the committee so that you can spread the word.
It was actually built and designed as a photography studio, and it stayed as a photography studio its whole entire life until Summer's studio closed, and then it became empty for a long time, and a gentleman that bought it and lived upstairs and kind of just kept it as a place to come when he was in town to visit family. And that's when that gentleman contacted me, and we sanded the floors. And as far as I know, no business ever went back in there.
So there was a business in there for a year, and they've since moved on. They purchased the former Buyer's Guide, so they're down the street on North Water Street. And it's just there. It's a staffing business where they're just doing books, so it's not a retail or retail store or anything, but they just do books for different businesses. So that's available right now. So please spread the word. Let's see if we can get a business in there as soon as possible.
And I'll just point out that, I mean, if any of you guys knew, the Chamber's got an awesome website here for looking at what's available in town.
We try to link anything that is available right now, commercial-wise, so that if anybody comes in, we have that right at our fingertips to share. So we'll link with different realtors, make sure that we give some extra exposure for getting the sale through. You okay? Yeah. The next thing I want to mention, I'm sure you've seen this before if you've been driving down Shawano Street, but there's a remodel happening, an awesome remodel happening on, it's 519 North Shawano Street, which is Mid-State Asphalt and Mid-State Tire and Repair. He's doing some really cool exterior improvements. It's really sharp. That's two businesses under one roof.
Very noticeable to that.
Yes, it's beautiful. We're getting a ton of phone calls like, who bought that? I'm like, no one, they're just updating. So they're having a really good year in sales. So they are doing some pretty cool renovating. And the last update that I am sad to share is an owner update. The owner of Genie Rose Sports Bar in New London, his name is William Bone. He passed away suddenly. He was only 47 years old. April 18th, he passed away. So Bill had two bar locations, one here in New London, which just opened within the last year, and then one in Clintonville. And his wife has decided to continue the business on, but he has sadly passed away. That's it. That's all I have. Any questions?
Okay, moving on to city administrator report.
Just a couple things on the economic development front. I continue to work with SC Swiderski on plans for their riverfront development, working with their engineers. First step, we can determine that we were going to update the CSM for the property. We've been talking about, because, for example, the current property, the current layout, the parcel actually goes halfway into the road towards the old Simmons property, and then also includes the road on the other side, Smith Street, closer to John's Bar. And we talked about, well, is it better for the city kind of retain almost a right of way for the roadway easements for that? So we're kind of working those type of situations out, especially because Smith Street, if you come down Smith Street by John's Bar there, there's a corridor there with a ton of utilities. So you can't really ever build on top of that anyway, because those utilities got to stay in that corridor. So we're working that out, and just a bunch of things. We need to get together with our financial advisor, Ellers, and Judy, and start talking about what we need to do to work on the TIF and TID funding aspect of that. So there's just a lot of conversations going on in that aspect. And then Midwest Properties continues to work on their development in the Northeast Business Park. Their site plan is being reviewed by the Planning Commission on Thursday, which is kind of exciting. So hopefully that does get approved and they can start breaking ground pretty quick. One thing we have to do on the city's end, that we need to work on working with We Energies to get gas installed. There isn't a gas main installed along that road to the north yet. So we got to work with We Energies on that. That's going to be a cost on the city's end, but it's something that We Energies, what they do is the city would have to pay for it up front for the main. And then as people connect into it, there's a credit, we get that credit back, paid back to that for that investment. So that's something that we're gonna have to do to kind of get the gas main in there for natural gas service in that area. That's all I got for economic development side.
Has the sale for the property been finalized now?
Which property?
The SC Swiderski one?
They have an offer to purchase that we signed, but there was some contingencies in there. Number one, we have to agree on a developers agreement, both the city and them. And then we also have to agree on the TIF funding and the CSM. So even though we're kind of locked in with them to a point, there's those three things that have to be approved by or agreed upon both by the city and them to actually go through the final sale. So those are things that we're going to have to bring to committee and council for approval over time. And then once all those things are agreed upon, then the final sale will come to council for the property itself. So those are the kind of the hitching things that we want to make sure, not that we sell it to them for really cheap and they turn around and sell it for $500,000, type thing. So those are the type of things in the developers agreement we want to make sure we agree upon before we actually sell the property.
Has there been anything that's been brought up that they're asking for in particular?
We haven't got that far yet. So, we need to figure out, it's in the beginning stages. Their engineers are just getting on board for what the engineering feels like they need to make this project happen. And those discussions will happen through that whole TIF funding element, because whatever they want for funding from the city is going to have to be financially possible through that TIF funding. That's the best case scenario for that.
Anything else? Review potential agenda items for future meetings.
Emily Kling, she's not going to be ready till probably June.
Yeah, so right now she's kind of committed to after school sports and practices. So hopefully.
That's what I had with that gentleman.
Yep.
After school sports as well.
Okay.
I think for next month, we've got a pretty full agenda. We're going to have the library, have some data come in, so we're not timing, especially if we're going to have Dave Teal come in.
Potentially.
I think we'd be good. Yeah.
I got a suggestion. An item. We were talking a few months back about recruiting or looking for a second grocer to be in town. And that's something we should somehow work on or get a group together to try to recruit something. We got 2 flooring companies in town and only 1 grocery. So we certainly should have another one
Superior.
for the competition. Okay. That's it, sir.
All right, moving on to public comment.
Just want to update you a little bit on Avion Energy, who I represent, also besides all the other hats I wear. I think last month I talked a little bit about the solar energy company coming to this area. Whether it's my company or another company, there's going to be a large solar energy project on the north side. My company was founded in 2019, has more than 15 years in the utility business. They work on solar energy and wind energy, which if they would want to come here with windmills or that type of wind energy, I told them I wouldn't have worked for them. I don't like wind energy. I think it's a scar in the landscape. I think solar energy, if you don't want to see it, you don't have to drive within a mile, then you probably have to see it. That's my thing about that. I think we're working in 20 states right now. Economic impact of this, I think we can get in the next couple of weeks. I think in June, we're going to start holding public comment meetings and stuff here in the London area. London, the city of, isn't going to be affected directly economically. There's going to be 300 jobs during that 1-year construction. So that's hotels, restaurants, gas stations, construction companies, rental opportunities for other people and stuff out there. So $350,000 a year from this company because of utility contracts with federal government has to be given to Allegheny County because that's where this will be in. That's expected. $250,000 to the town that it's located. Now I know what town that's going in, and there's not very many residents in that town, so I can't imagine what they're going to spend that.
Is that Maple Creek?
Maybe they'll give it to the city of London. Help us out a little bit. There's not going to be any additional burden to the police or schools or any emergency services out there at all. No stress on local infrastructure. Once we get everything carried in there, those roads, you're not going to have back and forth traffic after that all the time. I mean, you're going to have that initial 2-year construction. Local companies, landscapers, printers are going to be used directly for project needs. It's going to be 2 to 5 permanent operation and management jobs plus indirect services. They're going to need people to take care of the grounds and that out there. Underneath of all of these solar panels, they put native grasses and stuff in there. So it's going to be extremely environmentally friendly to the area out there. And we're talking about at least 1,000 to maybe 1,400 acres out there. When it's complete, it's going to be enough energy for approximately 35 to 40,000. So it's going to be significant. So it's a big deal. They do have another in Wood County. They have multiple projects here in Wisconsin. Wood County is just starting to be built. They do have some other ones. Probably at some point, Chad, I'll email you some of these pages. I can't share everything publicly yet until we get contracts signed with whoever we're going to work with. Get contracts signed with whoever we're going to work with. Never hear from me again. We'll hear from somebody else. That's where we're at with that. I guess with that, that's about it. The rest of the stuff, I mean, they talk about megawatts and all that stuff in here. I'm limited by fire right now. I signed on with this job about 2 months ago. So, and they're basically using me for a resource outlet to make contact with everybody here. I got a huge network from my days in the dairy industry across Wisconsin. So I'll probably be representing a lot of this stuff from Highway 39 to the east and from probably Fond du Lac to the north. When they get these going, there's going to be multiple of these around. So if you're thinking about solar farms in rural areas, it's not going to have the reason they're interested in the north side of London. It's because all the infrastructure for electricity out there. You've got about 3 substations out there. You've got multiple power lines carrying power in and out that also go to the valley. So that's where the interest of this area comes. Clintonville and Bear Creek are also on those. There's going to be one built in the Bear Creek area. Just south of Highway D, where it turns to the east off of Highway 45 1,000 acres up in there already on lease with one farmer up there. So extremely lucrative. We either offer to purchase the property from the farmers or landowners, or we offer to lease it. Purchase price is probably double of what regular farmland value is. I don't want to disclose numbers. Rental is probably 5 times what you would get trying to grow a crop, and you don't turn a wheel, you don't do nothing, and yet farmers sit there, well, I got to think about this for a while. So I don't know, I won't think too hard, too long. I'd ask for the time to pay for this. So that's all I got with that. Hopefully in June I'll know more. May I'll know more, obviously. So I'll keep you updated on that. I guess I do have one other kind of major thing that is coming here, but right now I don't want to elaborate on it. It would be they're looking for 10 acres of land anywhere from Green Bay, the north side of the valley, all the way around, probably down to the town of Clayton along a major highway. I will say that it's going to be a very unique wedding venue where they will hold weddings. So right now it's not going to be anything. There's nothing similar anywhere that I know in the area. April, you and I talked about a little bit that could even compete with that. It's going to be amazing if it came to this area. Going through a little bit of a battle with that because the lady, the major investor, is Chinese. So I got through Hispanic transactions. I don't have a problem with that. I got through the Hmong community this winter with a couple of transactions. Now this lady is just a smidge different accent than what the Hmong was. But she has an interpreter that we're working with. We had a good hour-long meeting yesterday. Looked at a couple of properties. The one property that she really wanted, I had already sold. So we're trying to keep them over here. I don't think with the budget they gave me, I don't think they can afford to go farther to the east towards Green Bay or North Appleton. She wants to be about 45 minutes, within 45 minutes of Neenah. So that's what we're working for here. So Chad, you and I discussed the type of land that she wants. He's got that in mind. So I'm not going to say too much more than that right now. Hopefully it's not going to be a direct impact to the city again, but it will be to hotels, restaurants, stuff like that. So that's all I got. So I got a buzz to my next meeting in Manawa.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, review the next meeting date.
The next one, the regular scheduled one would be Tuesday, May 25th. Anybody got a problem with that? Right. Otherwise, May 25th at 4:30.
Need a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
So moved. Second.
We adjourned.
We just add introductions.
Yeah.